Welcome to the Propreneur Podcast, where we help practice owners become better entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dino Watt. And welcome once again, everybody, to the Propreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dino Watt. Excited to have you here again for another episode where we're bringing you experts in their field to help you become better in yours. And today I'm very excited because this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. As many of you know, anybody who's listened to this show for any period of time knows that I started my entire career off focusing on people's relationships, specifically their marriages, and specifically with people who kind of were at a higher end job. They were speakers and authors and doctors and lawyers and people who were being very successful in what they did, but might not have been as successful inside of their marriage. And I created the program, The Business of Marriage, where we helped people understand how to balance the two of those together. And I met somebody who is like a kindred spirit, who's somebody totally gets this and is doing this on a bigger level than I ever did. And I'm super excited to have her here today. Our guest is Ann Tublin, and she is going to share with us all of her expertise and intelligence on how you can, and I love this title of her book, which isn't the only book, but the title of the book, we could title maybe the podcast this, Not Tonight, Dear, I've Got a Business to Run. So smart. I love that title. It's a great title. Patty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited is because Dino and I share the same passion. It's helping people be successful in business and in their personal lives, right? Because we especially women, we're all given this false choice, right? You can't have it all. Yes, you can. Dino has it all. I have it all.
Well,
and we're not special. Well, we have a family, we have a successful business. We didn't say perfect,
right?
We didn't say the best looking. We didn't say the richest,
right?
But we have what we want.
That's right.
And that's all that matters.
Well, for me, it's going back to that whole thing about having, people talk about having balance. How do you balance your life? How do you balance that? I don't actually believe in that. My philosophy is flow. Is that you can be in flow in one place or another. And sometimes just like going into a river, you can walk into the river and you're just like ankle deep. That water's not really messing with you, even though the current's going. You go into knee deep, you're feeling it a little bit more waist deep. All of a sudden you really start feeling it chest deep. You're trying to battle against the current. And I think that there are certain times in our life where maybe I'm in my, relationship, or my focus of my relationship is only knee deep because I'm focusing so deep into my business. And to have the flow and understand that it's okay to talk about, this is the area I'm focusing on. I'm not forgetting this. I'm not giving up on this. But balance to me seems like a lot of work. And I don't like to work very hard. So hopefully that makes sense.
I love the concept of flow, right? Because if you think about a river flowing, if there's a boulder in the water, right, it gets backed up. But I know people don't like the word balance. I don't have an issue with it, only because I look at it as within the span of your life, not at a specific moment in time.
That makes sense.
Right? So for example, when I was raising my 4 kids and, doing my work and writing my book, I had this conversation with my husband. We said with my kids, listen, when I come home from work, I'm going to be writing my book at night a little bit and on the weekends, like not every waking minute of the weekend, but I will be putting a little bit more into my profession during my personal time than I normally would like to. It's short-lived. It's for this very specific reason. And everybody was involved with it, including friends. Like I can't go out. Because I need to do this. So you could suggest that at that moment I wasn't in balance, but I'm not doing it now,
Right. No, that's exactly what I believe too, is that what you did is you enrolled your husband and the kids in this idea that you're working on this thing. I talk about, I know you recently read my book, as in the beginning there of saying, like, don't say your family is the most important thing. If in that time period, it's not that they're not important, but that I'm going to put my focus on writing my book, or, hey, for the next 3 years, I'm going to really be building my business up so that we can have the next 30 years to do the things we want to do, type thing. But that open communication and enrolling people, especially your family members, but also I love how you talk about with your friends, hey, this is what we're focused on. So don't be offended if I turn you down from coming to your party or going out with you this weekend. It's not you. I'm just focusing on this thing. Don't forget about me. I don't want you to not invite me, but just know that I might not be able to make it because I'm working on this thing.
Right. And especially you work with orthodontists, dentists,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Medical professionals in particular, but most professionals,
right?
They spend an inordinate amount of time when they are in dental school, in training, right? But it is for the future. It is for the life they want in the future. They'll look back on it 20 years out of school and be like, I don't know how I did it. Well, your focus has shifted, right? So even though you were prioritizing your family is important to you, your marriage is important to you, at that specific moment in time, you got to pass these classes or you're not going to have the life that you thought you would.
That's right. Well, this is great. We've already gone off to a good start, but we haven't started the way we normally start this show, which is,
okay. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's totally me. Hey, the show is a conversation. That's what I always want it to be. But I always like to ask, because I believe stories are what connect all of us. I'd love to hear what's your story. Tell us your background. Tell us how you got to doing what you're doing, and entertain us with that.
Okay. All right. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest version if people are mature enough to remember Reader's Digest, right?
Yeah, totally.
So here's the skinny. I think they call it the skinny now. So I have 2 master's degrees, a doctorate in clinical psychology. My books came later, and I was doing traditional marriage therapy, if you will, with a couple that the husband was an entrepreneur. And we were working on, which I've always worked on, relationship skills. And at this particular moment, as you know, Dino, what's the big one? Communication, right? It determines the overall quality of your life. No doubt. I was helping them with the communication. And the wife turned to the husband, who was the entrepreneur, and said, Bill, this is what your company needs. This is what your leadership needs. And he turned to me and he said, can you do this for me? And I'm like, total me. I don't know. Can I do this? So I said, let me think about it. And that really began my journey of becoming a coach and a consultant. And then I went and I got, the coaching certifications, because it's not the same as therapy. It's in many ways different. There's a common denominator of skill sets. Like my formal education has taught me about human behavior, human motivation, right? What makes people tick. But the coaching concept is going forward, whereas therapy is like a disease model. So I don't prefer that, right? I like going forward and helping. So that's when I started to coach and consult. And it's all about relationship skills that drive the bottom line. It helps you with your individual performance, optimize it, and your team performance. Because just like in a practice, right? If you have one person in your dental office that is sort of kind of a curmudgeon, they bring the energy of the entire office down. You almost are driving into work thinking, I hope they call in sick.
Right.
Like,
that's who I call my staph infections. Right.
Yeah. Red flag. Exactly. So anyway, I just love the whole aspect. Like there's 2 aspects to business, right? One is the business, whatever it is. And the other relationships. And I used to say it's 50-50. And a really, really smart guy from Genius Network, how we know each other, said to me, may I correct you? I said, sure. He goes, it's 80% relationships.
Yeah, I agree. Well, especially, so we're having this conversation. I want to get back to, I want to actually find out a little bit more of your backstory of why did you care so much about relationships that you wanted to talk to people about them. But and what you just said is so important to understand, because right now I believe in our industry, and I think in a lot of industries, we're going into more of, as Tony Robbins says, a winter, where we're going to see a lot more of people hunkering down. We might not see as high growth as we had in the last couple of years, even with COVID and all that. And I think the thing that gets you through the hard times isn't your business skill and acumen. It's necessary. You need to have it, absolutely. But it's how you have treated people beforehand and how you're treating them now. It's the relationships that are going to get you through the winters. It's not the business acumen. That's my opinion. But let me go back. What made you think Oh, I want to talk to people about their relationships and help them improve that. Where'd that come from? Have you always cared about relationships? Has it been something that comes easy to you? What?
Okay, so I do think it comes easy to me. And if I may say this in all sincerity, I joke, but I mean it's my gift, right? I don't have a lot of gifts. Can't cook, can't clean, can't sew, can't sing. I'm teeny, so I love to play sports, but good luck with that. I always knew I wanted to help people. I always wanted to be in the helping profession. I never wanted to be on Wall Street. I never cared a lick about business from the dollar perspective, which is sort of kind of interesting because I help businesses, but I help them make more money because I help them improve their relationships.
100%.
You know, so I didn't know how I would get here. I did want to go to medical school. And then what happened was, this is, you know, the sad song, my father had passed away. There was no money. I guess I really didn't want it badly enough, right? Because I'd gotten a scholarship to college, but I was, believe it or not, I was an athlete and my sport was year round. I was a swimmer and I had to work in the summers to pay for my books. And I couldn't work. I mean, I couldn't work if I was swimming because you had to do it 12 months. And now I'm going to date myself, Dino, which I don't think I've ever said before in a podcast like this. At the time, I was the first group, which is the first 3 women that worked at the federal government, the beaches as a lifeguard.
Wow.
When they passed the law, that makes me sound ancient, but it's not that long ago. When I was also the first girl on my block to wear sneakers, which also makes me sound ancient. It's not that long ago. But the federal government mandated that you had to hire women. Now, there was nothing special about me being hired. What was special is that my swimming coach was the chief of the lifeguards. So he begrudgingly was like, well, if I have to hire these girls, I might as well hire the ones I know.
Yeah,
exactly. And but I needed to be able to have that money because it was a really good job. So so I ended up, I didn't swim in college. I ended up, my illustrious career began at NYU because they gave me the most money. It was a really easy formula. And then somewhere along the line, I just got off. I mean, I did fine, but I just ended up, I have 2 master's degrees. All, you know, one is in social work, one is in nursing. So I work with a lot of medical professionals, right? Because I'm also an RN and I understand. So I look at the person, if you look at us as a tripod, right? You know, a social, psychological, and physical, you know, medical. It's a terrible, terrible presentation, but we're all connected and we know more and more about that connection and how it's almost the chicken and the egg, but we can only speak one-dimensionally, but everything is going on in concert, flowing, coming. Like, I think now we actually we all know decisions are emotional. Right. They're emotion-based. Every CEO on the planet will tell you, no, just the facts. I'm like, oh, keep thinking that, pal. Why do you think smart people make dumb decisions? Because it's emotion, right? So did that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I love this. So you had this, you took your career and went to school. Well, you went to school and then decided on the career there. I am always interested in people's backstories of what pushed them there with doctors. Why did you want to become a doctor? You know, as you say, the sad story sometimes jumps in there. Mine was parents divorce, who I know how to fix it, but nobody's listening to me because I'm 8, you know, so that type of thing. What I love is we have a very similar story too, in the sense of when somebody said, oh, honey, do you need this in your business? Mine was, I was talking to a doctor about his marriage and the doctor was like, this is working great in my marriage, but I'm married to 8 other work wives. Can you help me out here? Right. Is there something you can do? Yeah. And it was like, oh yeah, I bet I could, you know, and went and dove in that way. So as you're working with these higher end entrepreneurs, the really understanding how, as you said, I love that you said this because not a lot of people get this. Your bottom line will increase when everyone has the relationship in place. I'm not saying everybody's walking into office every day singing songs and there's no, you know, dysfunction in little areas, but understanding how to overcome that dysfunction.
Or we put the fun back in the dysfunctional.
That's right. Putting the fun back in the dysfunctional. That's good. I love that. understanding how to communicate with each other and know that that's the most important thing in any relationship, that's going to increase your bottom line. So let's talk about some of the clients you have had.
Well, hang on. Let me comment on what you just said, because
sure.
I know you talk about this in your book. So I know this is important to you.
Yeah.
Similar to a marriage, similar to a practice, right? To the dentist offices, medical offices, law offices, they're all
right.
In a lot of ways. With all due respect, they're all the same.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Is the whole hidden agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that there's a 600-pound gorilla in the middle of the room, but nobody is addressing it. If you don't have transparency, you don't communicate about it, you do not have an office that's functioning based on trust. So what happens? Things go underground. Things aren't said. There's backbiting. There's backstabbing. There's channeling.
Yep.
You're not going to make the money that you think you could. Take everything I just said and apply that to your marriage.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the relationship. You're not going to have the happiness. It's going to look, marriage is work. Make no mistake about it. It's hard enough. Don't keep an albatross around your neck. Help yourself out here.
Well, it's funny because when I first started doing the marriage side of things, I would think about the different ways that we as a society really look at marriage or even suggest things about marriage. And I would talk about this idea that marriage is work, and marriage is work, as you just said. And I love how you separated the two statements. Marriage is work. Things are hard enough. Why, let's not overcomplicate it, if you will. Let's give yourself the ability to, I would often use this analogy of, two young kids getting married and, they're in their early 20s and everybody's excited for them. And they go to their, grandparents or the people that have been married the longest. Hey, what's the secret? How can we keep it there? Oh, it's a lot of hard work. And I thought, well, how funny is it that we as a society, when they're dating, it's like, go have fun, kids, enjoy yourself, have a great time. And then the moment you say, I'm committed to this and a lot of hard work. It's like, well, okay, but what if it was just work and we didn't make it that it was going to be like this terrible, hard, terrible thing? As you said, life is hard. Let's give ourselves the tools to make the work as easy as it can be. Let's learn how to communicate better so that even when stuff happens, we actually have the tools to not make it hard work, but, it's work time. Okay, now I got to pull out the tool to go to work here. I don't consider my work hard. I don't consider coming into work every single day as a hard thing, or I wouldn't do it.
Well, here's the thing, a couple of comments on what you said.
Yeah.
So it's work, but have the tools to know how to work the work.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have to admit, I love weddings. Like, invite me to your wedding. Any listener, invite me to your wedding. I don't even have to know you. I will be there. You can ask my husband. I will go. I will love it. I will enjoy it. And I sit there thinking, you have no idea what you're doing. Like, I'm not naive to think,
cute.
They live happily ever after. But I love the concept of love. And now when you say about the grandparents, so I have 4 children. My oldest are identical twin boys. I don't know if I told you that, Dino.
No, I didn't know that.
One of them, one just got married. The other one's getting married in July. But when he called us up to tell us he was going to ask his fiance to get married, who I love. We said whatever we said. And then he said, well, any advice? And I'm thinking, what are you asking me for? Oh, wait, I'm your mother and I'm an expert in this.
That's what I do.
I get it. so I had to think though. And I said, you know what? Don't sweat the small stuff and keep your sense of humor.
Right.
That's right. And most of it is small stuff.
Yep.
Real is, so you get married, you're young, whatever age that young is, it doesn't matter. From the perspective of, the trick to marriage is to allow the individual within the marriages to grow and grow apart.
Yes.
While staying connected.
Yes. I love that.
Moron, but it's not.
Well, no, it's not. And that drives me nuts when people say, oh, we grew apart. Well, you're supposed to grow. Like, when people say, I want to get back, like they're struggling in their marriage and they'll say, oh, I want to get back to how it used to be. No, you don't. You want to not want to be a stupid 22-year-old. You don't. No, you want to think forward. The idea is to celebrate the growth of your spouse. I think that's one of the most important things that I have learned and I've been so grateful for my wife and what she's done is we haven't always had, I haven't made the best decisions in my business. So we haven't always had money, any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was on a constant growth pattern. And there are times, and I know you've heard this before, where people will say, I'm working on myself. I'm, learning all this information. Maybe I'm going to, personal development, all this stuff, but they're not. So we're going to grow apart. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't, as long as you're working on yourself, why are you worried about them? Just celebrate where they are. Let them celebrate you where you are. And like you said, the non-oxymoron of grow apart, but do it together. I love that.
Right. So let me give a great example. Look, and I'm really lucky because my husband is like amazing. Like I'm the pain in the ass to live with, right? He is amazing. It's true. It's
the same in my marriage. Since Jaz's not here, I can say that. She's the pain in the ass.
I don't know how he puts up with me. I love him, love him, love him. But like my joke is if he came home to a home cooked meal, he would think somebody died. Right. Because like it's
like,
remember,
wait a minute,
I said earlier, not one of my gifts, not a gift.
Right.
But here's an example of what we're talking about in terms of supporting each other. As I was leaving this morning, and we talked about this before we got on the call, I have a call tonight at 8:30. Like not my favorite thing to do at 8:30, Jeopardy's over. I'm sort of kind of getting ready to unwind.
Yep.
And yes, I'm old. I watch Jeopardy, but I did it forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I said to him, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I have this call. I don't know, maybe I'll come home maybe for dinner. Or he goes, well, do you want me to just bring dinner to your office for you? Would that make it easier? And I'm just like, where'd this guy come from? Like, what a good guy. But I could give you a million. Honestly, I don't know if I would think, I shouldn't say this, but I don't know if I would think to do that if the shoe were on the other foot. No. I'd be like, yeah, you'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Right. But that's why I think
my day. It made my day.
Yeah, of course it did. And it's that knowing the other person is thinking of you in another way or just thinking of you, right? And having that.
Well, it was about me, not about him.
Yeah.
He made it about me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So let's turn a little bit and let's talk about when you're talking with these business owners, these CEOs, and you deal a lot with really some high-end, high-powered people. What makes their problems or challenges in their marriages any different than anyone else's?
They're not.
I know.
Trick question. Thanks, Dino. Glad I passed. Here's the difference. I will tell you the difference. And it is actually very much a challenge. I know you're not supposed to use the word problem, but trust me, it's a real problem for these people. It's a real challenge. And here's what it is. And this is why I'm hired. Nobody will speak truth to power to these people. I do. I tell them, look, don't hate me because I'm beautiful, but here's the scoop. Right? Or do you want the 13 years of college response, or do you want the kid from Brooklyn response?
Right.
Which one do you want? Right. And then I say my thundering velvet hand comment is what I call it.
Thundering velvet hand. Nice.
Yeah. I think that might have been from James Taylor. I'm sure I stole it from someone. There's no way I was that creative. But it's an issue because let's say you have a really high functioning executive at work. And actually, I had a CEO say this to me. I have, Patty, and 400 people that the minute I walk, back when you used to go to work, the minute I walk into the building at work, they will do anything I ask and they will anticipate it. So like I had an executive once say in passing, she happened to mention she liked Diet Coke. The next day, her refrigerator was filled with Diet Coke. It's like, let's kiss some more ass here, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He said, I go home and my wife is like, can you take the garbage out? And I'm like, wait a minute. I walk on water. Now you're asking. And that discrepancy can be very difficult for successful people, and throw in a boatload of money. Unfortunately, people want your money, or they want, and I don't mean it in a Machiavellian way, but Oprah, honestly, I'm not like, all right. Oprah said, you know who will ride the limousine with you, but who's going to take the bus with you?
Right.
So people want access to a lifestyle. They want, and I get that. It's nice to go to a Michelin restaurant, but The hidden agendas with the people in your life sometimes run much deeper. Actually, I am working with the CEO's wife right now. And the CEO said to me, and he was very tentative, can you help my wife with this? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. He sent me an email after about eight weeks working with her. He said, you're right, Patty Ann, you have no hidden agenda. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
There's nothing I want from you. I don't care. I know people that have a lot more money than you. It's okay. Like,
right. Yeah. No, I love that, because one of the things that I had to do, and I don't know if you came into this when I was first starting out, is I actually probably did have an agenda back then, is I just wanted everybody to be happy. Like, I'm a contributor. That's my why. My why is to contribute to a greater cause. And so I always want to help. And when it's not working, I feel personally responsible for it. And I remember being really stressed about a particular couple one time, and they weren't doing the work I was asking them to do. They weren't getting the reps in, if you will. And I remember talking to Shannon about it that night, and she just stopped me and she said, Dino, you can't care for their success and want for their success more than they do.
More than they do.
And suddenly I was like, oh gosh, that's totally true. Like, that lifted so much weight off of me. And that created that idea that you just said, is like, I don't have an agenda. I don't have a dog in this fight. I just, if anything, I want you to get what you say you want. Mm-hmm. You say you want to be happy. You say you want to connect more. You say you want to not destroy your marriage. That I want that for you too, but I can't be responsible for that. Right?
Well, you can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves.
Yeah.
And here's the flip side. Well, maybe it's not the flip side, but another aspect is working. And I work with a lot of business partners. And if there's orthodontists listening, if you went into business with another partner, full well, that's like,
all the time.
Right? If it's your dad or your mom, even bring on the family dynamics, right?
Yep.
But what will happen is people will say, well, I want out, I'm done. Why? Because I am miserable, I'm unhappy. I'm like, take a breath. Are you sure you're unhappy because of the relationship? Because what if you leave the relationship? What if you divorce your business partner and you're still unhappy?
Yeah.
So you might be working on the wrong issue. So now what do? We look in the mirror.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard this come across this too, is that there was, I can't remember where it was, years ago, I read some research around, for the most part, when people are unhappy in their relationships, if about 5 years is about the length of that unhappiness befir they realize, I really wasn't that bad. If they stick it out for about 5 years, I have friends now who have, unfortunately, some of our best friends, they were divorced a couple of years ago, and it was this really kind of traumatic thing. But both of them have told us in private, man, it's not worth it. We should have just stayed together.
So that is so interesting. You just said that, because sometimes you change one set of stressors for another. Yeah. Now, of course, barring, abuse, physical,
100%.
Right? And look, I had a dentist I work with. He had to divorce his business partner because he was committing fraud. Right. My person paid the IRS money he didn't make, but this guy just did the right thing. He was just an amazing human being, right? But this person I was talking to has 4 little kids. The youngest is 2. I said, wait a minute, just slow down, right? And the profession, all that stuff. Do you know how difficult your life is going to be as a single parent? I'm not saying, please don't anyone misinterpret or misunderstand me, right? Yep. But don't trade one set of unhappiness for a boatload of other unhappiness. Because now you're dealing with daycare, childcare. You can't just run
visitation,
out
custody,
child attorneys.
Attorneys. Oh no, absolutely.
Right.
Man,
so,
I can't agree with you more on that, Patty Ann, because
I don't want people to think we're saying to stay together if you're miserable.
No,
but maybe the misery is coming from a different source.
That's exactly right. Right. The question is, would you want to be married to you? Right. Like, right. I used to do a speech years and years ago. And in the speech, I talked about how, as a child of divorce, the things I never wish I knew that I had to learn, like the words child support, custody, visitation, all of those things, alimony. Like those are things an 8-year-old shouldn't need to understand and know what it is, right? And so you just bringing in a whole nother set of problems. You think that the immediate fix is get rid of the problem, and it's not. It's adding more to it. I want to back up to what you said too a little bit ago, which is so great that you say this, because I use almost the same analogy typically with when I had a couple of speakers, authors, people who are on stages and stuff. And the same idea of they spend their days going on stage and everybody applauding at what they're saying, and everything they say is brilliant, and they're writing notes down of what they're saying. And this person is so smart. I'm going to quote him tomorrow on Instagram. And then they go home and it's the wife just saying, so take the trash out, or like, I'm not going to applaud for you when you do what you're supposed to do at the house, type things. And
the only one that greets you is the dog.
Yeah, right. It's such a mind freak that there's got to be sensitivity to that, right? Like it is a weird world to live in, whether you're a speaker or you're a CEO, where people will literally do anything you want them to do. And you go home and you're, for lack of a better word, just dad or just husband. My brother,
just
wife. Yeah. My brother is he's one of the main, what's it called? I want to say custodians, but anyway, he works for the federal government. He's a main probation officer. Sorry. But years ago, he used to work at a big prison. I want a really maximum security prison.
Talk about a whole subculture going on there.
What's that?
Talk about a whole subculture in prisons. That's a whole other conversation.
Well, but what he would say was same type of ideas. He would go to work and literally have hardened prisoners, murderers, who, if he told them, because he was, working on their programs or whatever, if he told them they all had to stand on the table and do the hokey pokey, they would have to do it. Yeah. But he goes home and tells his kid to clean the room and no one's listening to him.
Right.
So it is a bit of a mind freak. And so those are challenges that come up inside of these relationships and understanding how to deal with them. Yeah.
Well, and I will also say that it's also when you get a little full of ourselves, you walk in and children are the great democratic equalizer.
Yeah, totally.
Like you think you just crushed it. Like, oh my God, what a day. And you come in and like your kids are like, that's the ugliest shirt you've ever, like my kids are like, how much did you pay for that photograph, Mom? You look nothing like that.
Oh,
and my husband's like,
we all know what an eye roll does, right?
Right. But let me just say another thing about what you just said also is when people are, let's say, discontent in their relationship, right? Yes. I think we're under the misperception that one person can be all things to their spouse. Uh-huh. And many times we're expecting our partner to be all things to us, to be our lover, to be our best friend, to read the same books we want, to have the same hobbies,
Yep.
No, wrong, false information, right?
Yeah.
Fake news. You can have your set of friends for golf, football, knitting, whatever it is, right? Nobody will take the place of the intimate relationship in your marriage, right? But they can't be everything to you that you need. Right. And I think we need to reset the expectations of what to expect from a marriage and an intimate relationship.
I absolutely agree. I think that we need more people to understand that this one person out of the billions of people on this planet can't be responsible for fulfilling all those needs you have, and to being, like you said, having the same interest, all the same interest, or we're just not aligned. Again, I think we go back to this idea of let them grow and celebrate their growth and do what they're like. My wife is really into pickleball right now. Awesome. That's great. I like it too. It's fine, but she's on a league. Like she's in it. Cool. I don't get jealous when she's going out and hanging out. She hates crappy movies. I love them. I love those Fast and Furious and stuff like that. So I have my best friend Steve and I go to movies together. Like it's okay to have those things. And I think so many people put all this weight on, no, it must be, we are joined at the hip and that's what true love is. And right. If they want to go and do their thing, I think, I don't know, for sometimes it can go be because of distrust or concern in that manner. But man, I think if you have that open communication, then it can change everything. Let's talk about, what do you think are the biggest challenges with people when it comes to communication? Because we know communication is the biggest challenge. What is it about communication that people have such a hard time with?
Okay, so is it George Bernard Shaw, the comedian, said the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's taken place?
Oh, interesting.
It's the biggest problem. And this is how it shows up. I told you. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You never told me. Yes, you. No, I didn't. And from their perspective, they're both right, especially if you're doing what we used to call the Brooklyn intercom across the room or from upstairs down. Honey, we're going out tomorrow. Right.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? And yeah.
I talk about the, or the not. So I say all communication is either going to be successful or a failure based upon the setup of that communication.
Mm-hmm.
And my example is often if I'm here in my office and I'm working away on whatever, and Shannon just walks in and starts telling me something, right? And then I'm like, okay, sure, yeah. And then she goes, there's that moment where I know a week later, she's gonna like, remember we had that whole conversation? We did not have a conversation about this.
Right.
It's because it wasn't set up properly. She didn't say, do you have a minute? Can I, let me know when is a good stopping point?
It's now a good time.
Yeah. Right. And we've really worked hard on that. Even though we're not excellent at it, still, we've worked hard on, hey, is this okay? Especially if I'm on here or she's reading a book or writing her book, right? You're in the zone, you're in that moment. That's the focus.
And also is now a good time.
Is now a good time.
It's now a good time. And I share this a lot when we're talking to our children, especially when we're younger. We say to them, look at me, right? We go like this.
Yes.
Look me in. And you know why? You know why that's so valuable? Because when you are looking somebody in the eye, it is almost, from a neuroscience perspective, impossible not to listen to them. Because the eyes are the window to the soul, because it goes to the brain. It makes the connection easier.
Right.
Like if I'm looking at you now, it's harder to ignore me.
Right.
Right. Because you like I'm boring into you.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you look at, well, okay, hon. Mm-hmm, yeah. All right. What? Oh, good.
Well, there's been so many studies that show that you cannot multitask, no matter how good you think you are.
Although, I know that's true, but I got to tell you, when I was raising my kids and working, if I wasn't multitasking, nobody would have ever eaten that horrible meal I made. So there's difference between multitasking and being really fast at going to different stuff. Okay.
Right. All so you're good. You can switch to my wife is brilliant at that. She can switch from this to this.
Yeah.
And so it's that running joke. But let me ask you a question, because I think this is really crucial to our audience too, is typically you have two types. And I'm sure the higher you get in corporations and CEOs and this type of stuff, you probably don't come up against this as much. But in the practices, often you will have one of two situations. The spouse is involved in the office. Like I have a doctor up in Minnesota. Her husband is involved in like marketing and stuff like that, but he's not in the office every day. Right. He's not the owner of the practice.
He's an ancillary player.
Yeah. And then you have ones who have nothing to do with it whatsoever. Like they're just, oh, good, honey, go to the office, do your thing. When it comes to the two of those, I think sometimes the challenge can be the balancing the one that is involved inside of the office, especially when you're talking about growth. So a lot of times you'll have a spouse who's involved because of necessity, like, hey, we can't afford to hire a front office person or a treatment coordinator or whatever. But now that we've grown, we do have the money to do that. I don't need you as much. And there can be feelings of, hurt and annoyance, but I'm still a part of this, right? Or I want to have a say. There's a couple of situations that come up with that for me. How do you see that? What would you say is like the best way to make those adjustments where necessary as the business is growing, so that there doesn't become that hurt and that personal rejection around it?
Yeah. So this is, I talk about this in the book because it's so common. And as always, yeah, if possible, let's go back to the beginning, meaning when the person that is not the primary practitioner, we shall say, brings in their partner, have a very clear conversation on, almost as if you're hiring them outside your home, what their very specific role/job description will be.
Yes.
Right. So you know what? I can't afford a marketer now. And you're really good at this. So let's have you come in. Let's have the goal be to reach X amount of dollars or whatever. When we reach that, let's see if we can reevaluate what you do for marketing. Perhaps you can learn more social media, or let's see where else you can play a valuable role.
Nice.
Or, hun, do you just want to do this short term?
Right.
But if you're evolving and growing, there will be a need for more thought.
Yeah, like I guess we should even look at that as like, what's the goal? Is the goal to have you work in the office forever, or is the goal to have you never work at the office again, or is it to have you
so
come
it goes
back?
back. Right. Why are you coming? It's like any other hire.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing this person on board?
Yeah.
And this is where you have to put the marriage aside, and this is now an employer-employee arrangement.
All right. You just came up with something that I think is really hard for so many people. Separating the marriage and the business, right, especially when they get home. Because I talk
if you don't, you may blow up both.
Yeah. And that's a hard place, right? Because I talk to so many people who, all we do is talk about our business. Like we get home, it's business. We are in the business, it's business, especially the couples that are still working together in the business, right? Yeah. It's like, it's a constant conversation that it feels natural, right? It feels like, well, duh, this is what we have in common right now. Mm-hmm. What do you suggest people do who are in that situation of they're not able to talk about other things? It's either like the frustration of the kids or the frustration of the business, or, they're not able to drop the business at the door.
So what I tell couples all in practice together, and I'm thinking of a husband and wife dental practice, regular dentistry practice, is what did you do and talk about before you had kids and before you established your practice? When you would go out on a date, what would connect you? And it might be the dream of one day having it.
Yeah, that's probably what I would say. Yeah.
But usually you don't spend your entire conversation talking about the dream. Usually you don't, right? So especially if you have kids and you're running a practice and you're coming home just talking about the practice, time out, big time.
Yeah.
Don't think your kids don't know what you're prioritizing, right? So there's that piece. And then if you really have lost yourself in the kids and the practice, say, okay, the day will come when we won't be working this hard and the kids will be grown. How can we get ready for that now? What can we create? What interests can we spark? What can we experiment with? Whatever that means.
Where does play come into it?
Oh, you got to have fun. You've got to have fun. Play. I think play is so important because I think smiling is so important. Look, we all have the same time, same 24 hours in the day. Let's use COVID as an example. Okay. We have this is one of the few times in the history of the world where we have all at the same time been faced with the same crisis. Sort of kind of really daunting when you think of it this way.
Right. No, I agree.
Okay. So look at, two mindsets. You have people, life threw you lemon. Oh my God, woe is me. And the others are making lemonade. Now, I'm not saying you're going to learn how to play Chopin, or you're going to learn 6 languages, or you're going to learn how to be an art, right? Some people did, right? But people maybe used it as an opportunity to do things that they never had the time for before. So they took this crisis and they made it an opportunity. Whereas other people take the crisis and doom and gloom, like it's raining here where I am now in the Northeast, okay? Tomorrow probably sunny, it'll be a good day. I know people, it could be a beautiful day out. You say, oh my gosh, what a gorgeous day. You know, in 3 days, it's supposed to rain.
Yeah.
So you're not even enjoying the moment because you're always focused on this, what could go wrong, as opposed to what could go right. And it's a little bit of Dan Sullivan, Ben Hardy's, right? The gain and the gap.
Sure.
Right. So if everything is work, okay. So let me go back to my days so I actually studied Freud for 3 years. It's a lot like my Latin. Like nobody speaks Latin anymore, but it's a great baseline for language.
Sure.
Right. So when my kids were babies, I went to postgraduate
Nobody speaks Freud anymore.
Yeah, right. They all speak Brooklynese. And, the kids would be sleeping. I can still picture myself folding clothes, reading Freud, the classics. Now, he was asked throughout his entire life, and look, we know there's a lot of craziness with him, but he discovered 2 things: the unconscious, which we never knew before him.
Right.
We do things for reasons that we don't know. Blind spots, we call them in coaching, right? And dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. That's a whole other conversation. Dreams are so important.
Wow.
Okay. But throughout his life, he was asked, what's the meaning of life? And this was his answer: to work and to play. Now, no, to work and to love. And people misinterpreted totally blew that. People misinterpreted the work part, meaning to make money. No, work meant to be a contributing member of society, to give,
to toil,
make, right, do for others. And the to love part, people misinterpreted as sex. No, to love meant relationships, to be connected. And part of that is the fun. Right? So the meaning of life, part of the meaning of life is to have fun.
Yeah. I think you can see it in couples who are just not having fun in their relationship together anymore. It's interesting. I used to do this. I used to talk about this with couples, and it didn't happen every time, but often I would have couples who I'm meeting with maybe for the first time, and they're angry or they're bitter or whatever they are. They're just, maybe they're this just kind of apathetic about things, but
that's the worst time.
That's the worst one.
That's the worst time, because then they're done.
Totally.
They don't even have the energy to fight.
Yeah. And I say, I would say to them, I'd get their story, like, tell me your story of when you met and all that stuff and why you decided to get married and all these things. And sometimes, not every time, but sometimes it almost felt like the anger, the frustration, the where they were now wasn't who they were, like an act almost. Like, why are you putting on the act of being angry? Why are you like feeding off of this frustration that you have and not willing to let it go? And it's fascinating how many people would kind of like almost jerk back their head and go, wow, yeah, I don't know why I'm holding on to this so much. Like, and it's like you said, it's the work they have to do with themselves. They're not willing to look in that mirror, not willing to have that conversation and realize that the anger, the frustration, the unhappiness isn't about the other person. It's about them. And
it's so much easier to blame the other.
Sure.
So at least once a day, no joking, I say these 2 things to somebody. What's the real question? They'll ask me a question, but that's not the real question. What's the real question? And the other one is, what's the real issue? And you get that pregnant pause, and you know you're onto something. Yeah.
Wow. Geez, Louise, we're already an hour into this. This is crazy. Okay. All right. So, man, so much good stuff. Now I want to make sure that I, again, recognize and tell everybody the book is called Not Tonight, Dear. I've Got a Business to Run. enrich your marriage while prospering in your business. I think it's so important, so powerful. Barbara Cochran gave you a quote on the book. That's amazing.
Mhm.
And I want everybody to go out and get the book. But I know that we also have some special things for people that we're going to put on the links in the show notes as well. But we're going to talk about them here. Before we get to that, though, I have 6 questions that I ask every single guest that I would love to ask you. Are you willing to play?
Bring it on.
All right. So what do you think is the most expensive thing that small business owners, practice owners are missing inside of their business?
The most expensive in terms of money?
Yeah. Well, it could be also expensive in the terms
Okay,
of
I'm going
people.
to take a page out of your book, Dino.
Okay.
They don't have the success squad or the fun factor. So they're not, and it's not really as expensive as they think. It's penny wise, pound foolish.
Yes.
Meaning really bring in the balloons, celebrate the team working for you. Find a reason to have fun every single day.
Love it. So true. So true. Okay. Besides your book, what's a book that you believe every business owner should be reading?
Every business owner, gosh, I'm reading so many great ones now. Okay, so do I want a classic or do I want a new one? Okay, I'm going to go with this. There's something about, I mean, I love emotional intelligence. I love the Impossible book. I love Dan Kennedy's books. I love Ben Hardy's books. There's so much. I love Cameron Harrell's books.
That one, right? Mindset.
That's it.
Yep.
The classic. Carol Dweck is actually the person that coined the term mindset. Everybody else is after her. So go right to the source.
Fascinating. That's great. That's awesome. Love it. Yeah, I'm a voracious reader. I just love stuff like that. And it's just, I love finding these little tools, little snippets that are little things that are going to help me in my life and my client's life as well. Well, since you just got done reading it in my book, The Practice RX, I do talk about team
that was
culture.
a great book, by the way. That was I'm reading it. It's underlined. Yes. This is exactly.
I'm a fan of books like that too. When I'm reading, going like, did this person read my book? Like, this is exactly what I want. Yeah, I love it. Well, in that book, I talk about team culture and team performance as the foundation for business growth. What do you see as the biggest challenge when you're talking to your CEOs and your business owners? What is their biggest challenge that they're facing when it comes to their teams and their office culture?
Okay. It's also the kiss of death for innovation. Well, that's the way we always do it. That's the way the industry does it. This doesn't, for example, well, we're a tax accounting firm. We don't have fun. I'm like, no, your competitors don't have fun. This is how we're going to differentiate you.
Yep.
It's the way we've always done it.
So true. The way we've always done it. It's that whole, I mean, everybody's heard that whole ham analogy, right? It's like, that's just the way we've always done it. You've heard the ham analogy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How can listeners reach out to you and connect with you if they're interested in talking with you? Okay.
So if people would like, and I thank you, Dean, he just happened to have my book right there. Mm-hmm. If people would like to get chapter 4 of my Not Tonight, Dear, I've Got a Business to Run book, Dino, I think, has a link there and they can, fill out the link. And I'm also going to start an entrepreneurial couple mastermind group for, if you're listening to this podcast, you are the audience for this. So when you click on the link, you'll fill it out and my team and I will, vet you because I'm really nice and really fun, but I'm also like, you make sure you have the right people rowing the boat in the right direction.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that this is something that will add value to you. And fill out the form, we'll get it, and then we'll give you a call and we can talk.
Absolutely. We'll put those in the show notes as well to make sure that we get that for you. But that you're doing. So tell me just a little bit more about the mastermind, because I love this idea. I think people getting together and collaborating and seeing that, number one, they're not alone is so important.
Right.
Number two, that if you're willing to play, you're going to get so much more out of understanding other people and seeing what's going on there. I mean, look, at a very, very minimum, maybe they'll look and be able to like, well, at least we're not as bad as them, right? And maybe they'll get it. But at the very, very minimum. But
like,
the point of being able to connect and collaborate is so powerful. And we don't do it enough in couples with connection this way.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, look, entrepreneurs and small business owners, we're different.
Yes.
Right? Like we look at the world through a different lens. So we have different challenges in all our relationships.
Yep.
So there's mastermind groups for couples, romantic couples, and there's, Lord knows, plenty of mastermind groups for businesses and business leaders and business owners. So this marries, pun intended, my two areas of expertise, business and marriage. Yes. So you come to this with a group of people that have similar, if not exactly the same challenges and struggles, and you will feel that you are a part of something where other people get it, just like you said. And then we all learn and grow from each other. It is amazing what happens when you put a group of kind, genuine, smart people in a room together and learn from each other. It's mind-blowing. And the support and the sense of community that I don't think is really offered out there. So I'm like, why not me?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not you? Is there also, you have your own website though, besides the link we're going to put out there?
I do. It's like everything else. It's a work in progress, right? So I don't even know what stage is up, but it's drpattyann.com. Mm-hmm. So check that out. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Patty Ann Tublin. And I almost forgot, because I'm launching my podcast.
Oh, cool.
If people would like to subscribe to my podcast, it's called The Trust Doctor, Restoring Trust and Enriching Significant Relationships. And Dino was a guest on it. I haven't launched it. Well, are you a guest? Did I have you?
Will. I'm an upcoming guest.
An upcoming guest. Guest. Yes. You know what? We've had so many great conversations.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, very great. Yeah. I highly recommend everybody go out and check that out. Go to the website, click on the link if you're watching this on YouTube, and you can see it underneath here, and on the show notes is so important there. Okay. So question number 5 is, this is a hard one because there's so much I know, but you're just gonna have to do top of your mind. What's the best advice that you've ever received in life or in business?
The top of mind. Obviously I'm not being top of mind. The best, this is what's coming to mind as someone that's passionate about their work. At the end of your life, nobody will ever say, I wish I worked more.
It's true. I used to, in the end of my, at the end of my programs, I used to do live events. I would say, imagine yourself on your deathbed. If you're lucky enough to be able to be on the deathbed and have people around you, the only thing that's going to matter to you are the pair of eyes that are staring back at you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so true. Okay, last question. What is the best resource or tool that every private practice owner should be using to grow their practice or business?
Anything on emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Hands down.
Right?
No brainer. Like I said, I don't know how to pull tooth. I don't know how to put on braces. Doesn't matter. Don't need to. Emotional intelligence. You will keep patience. You will grow your business. You won't get reported to the board. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah. Very, very, very true. Wow. Well, Patty Ann, this has been an hour of amazing information, and I knew it would be, and I'm so grateful that we were able to get this on the schedule and share your expertise and your intelligence with everybody else out there. It actually, even more so than that, your passion with people out there. I really, really appreciate that. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Oh, this has been so much fun. This is such an honor and a privilege. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm excited to listen.
Yay, that's awesome. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it. Everybody, please go visit Patty Ann Tublin. Sorry, I want to say Tublin, but it's Tublin like Dublin. Dublin with the T.
Exactly.
That's
and there's only one family of Tublins, and they're all connected to my husband's family.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. They're all from a town. We used to think Russia, but now with, 23andMe, now we know it's the Ukraine, but it's all the same depending upon who invaded them when.
Well, I'm grateful for them for passing it all the way down and getting us to this day today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And everyone, that's it for another episode of the Propreneur Network. I wanted to thank you again for all of those that are sharing this show with their friends and their colleagues out there. It really does mean a lot. Remember that our goal here always on the show is to help you be more proactive, productive, and profitable in all areas of your life and business. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Thanks so much again for listening to the Propreneur Podcast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do so. Also, if you feel like you might be a good fit for our podcast as a guest or know somebody who you think would be, go ahead and email us at dino@dinowatt.com. Again, thanks for support. We'll see you on the next episode.